Thanks for having me today virtually. I'm going to be talking today about the Census Bureau's, one of the Census Bureau's newest innovations, the Census Household Panel. I'll give the bottom line up front. I'd hope to be able to share some results with you, but those results are not cleared yet. So I will highlight, there'll be a full panel of results presented at APOR this year. So I'm going to tell you today a little bit about the setup of our new panel. So I spoke last year, if you were here, about a pilot that we were conducting. So we're now in our research and development phase of the actual production effort. So this will be the first nationally representative panel to be built by a federal statistical agency itself in the United States, primarily for federal statistical agency use. And we see this as a step forward in providing the infrastructure for timely evidence-based decision-making. This is and will be a nationally representative address-based probability-based internet panel, including non-internet households, which I'll tell you a little bit more about in a moment. And one of the unique things about this is our frames have access to administrative data that are really available nowhere else. So different types of government data from across the government. So our goals in the household panel are to provide a high quality panel to improve the representativeness and reduce burden on households in the interest of collecting high frequency data. So higher frequency data than our classic gold standard surveys. So the households in the panel would be carefully sampled and recruited by the Census Bureau to reflect the diversity of the population. Our goal is approximately 15,000 panelists linked to our master address file. And available for administrative record linkage. So we see the panel as becoming integral to rapidly providing insight on national events that impact social, economic, or demographic characteristics of the population, like being able to field something quickly, like in the instance of COVID. The panel will also help us with research questions related to surveys, including nationally representative field tests for our own surveys, alternative methods for enhancing data with administrative and other external data sources and developed model data, and a platform for developing adaptive design procedures using auxiliary data sources that we might be able to use in other program areas. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about the construction of the panel. So for sampling, we use three different resources for sampling. Our master address file, which is our geospatial frame, or will be our geospatial frame, the demographic frame, and the planning database. So I'll tell you a little about each of these. The geospatial frame is an enhanced version of our master address file, which covers the entire United States. The demographic frame is a person-level frame that contains demographic, social, and economic characteristics of individuals derived from census data, survey data, administrative, and third-party data sources. So sources across our different platforms at Census. The planning database, some of you may be familiar with. It's an externally available product that contains select operational, housing, demographic, and social economic characteristics from the 2010 census and the American Community Survey's 5-year files. It provides low response score, which is a predictive value of male self-response and ACS self-response rates. And we use that latter portion, the ACS self-response rates that are available via the planning database in sampling. So for our household panel sampling, we took a stratified systematic sample of 75,000 addresses from all eligible units on the MAF, and then used auxiliary data from the demographic frame and planning database to form 11 strata in each census region. The demo frame was used to stratify households into Hispanic and race strata based on 3 race strata presented and 2 Hispanic strata. Households that were not matched to the demo frame we used the planning database strata, which included slightly different characteristics based on what was available. And then the final strata included households missing from both the demographic frame and the PDB. So that was the 11 strata in each census region that were used for sampling. The data collection was online using Qualtrics as the platform. The primary mode was self-response online, but we also had inbound CADI and outbound CADI non-response follow-up, and I'll talk a little bit about that on the next slide. Recruitment consisted of mainly male contacts and then the contacts and the focused telephone follow-up. Participants enrolled via a baseline questionnaire and then invited to complete monthly topical surveys. So on the incentive structure here, we used a $5 visible prepaid incentive, which had shown to be effective in our pilot work, and a $20 contingent incentive. The baseline questions were largely from the ACS and other national surveys to facilitate non-response bias analysis and to allow for later targeted sampling. The monthly topical surveys have a $10 contingent incentive, use primarily SMS and web invitation with limited outbound calling. And web completion and limited phone completion, not to exceed 20 minutes. So we used a little bit of adaptive design during data collection. We wanted to focus our outbound calling to be cost effective. So we used data from the planning database and sampled all sample cases were quartiled according to the self-response propensity to the American Community Survey. We did not call the highest and lowest propensity to respond. So for households that were very likely to self-respond, we didn't call them, and very unlikely to self-respond, we didn't call them. We focused all of our calling on the middle two quartiles. We are still working on the analysis of how this worked, and we will reassess it for replenishment sampling to see if it's effective. For post-processing, the final survey weights are designed to produce estimates for the total persons aged 18 and older living in housing units and occupied household level estimates. Sample-based weights are the inverse of the probability of selecting each housing unit within the sampling stratum, and sampling-based weights are adjusted by various factors to account for non-response, adults per household, and coverage. So then the final person weights are created by adjusting the independent population controls by various demographic groups. And similarly, the final household weights are created by converting the person level weights back to the housing unit weight by dividing the person weight into the number of persons 18 and older that were reported to live within the household. So we're just now starting to replenishment sample for the first time. The initial recruitment was done in September, and now we're doing replenishment sampling this month. Our plan going forward is quarterly replenishment after we get kind of the wheels moving. So our current research is exploring different ways of doing household level replenishment versus personal level replenishment. The demo frame provides a snapshot of the residents at a specific address. So if we wanted to do person level recruiting, we could do that using the demographic frame. We could also link additional administrative records to the demo frame in order to even further target the types of people we wanted to recruit. And this will enable to target specific characteristics for panel recruitment. There is a plan to explore a variety of measures to understand panel health in the future. This includes recruitment rates, response rates, attrition rates, R indicators, CVs of response, attrition propensities, the data defect correlation, and other measures to understand bias. So these are all kind of things that are planned in the works. So we have some ideas for different uses of administrative record sources. I think I'm short on time. So I did want to mention, I apologize for not being able to provide results here today, but I wouldn't have had time for very much anyway. We will have a full session at APOR this year, and that will provide information on everything that I covered so far, like how it turned out, how did the phone calling turn out, how did the recruitment turn out, what does our initial panel look like? Just to give a highlight, we got about 12,000 people to join the panel in the first go around, and so we'll lay out kind of what those people look like at APOR, and then we're doing replenishment right now, so I don't know if the replenishment data will make it into our APOR talk, but I hope to see you there. Thank you.